Hello and welcome. My name is Irse Moore. On this channel, I share my experience with anxiety and depression. Today, I want to talk about the time I was kind of homeless. But before I go into details, I do want to take a moment to give thanks, thank you God, to be grateful for all the blessings that have been thrown our way. My husband and I have been living in a very nice apartment for the past 2 years now. Well, since October of 2019. I can't do the math. It has been a great experience. We have nothing to complain about. And we are both expecting our first child in about 2.5 weeks. Life is great right now. It is wonderful. However, yet again, we are faced with a sudden change in our lives. And that is that we have to move to a brand new apartment by the 1st of July. The only reason I am not losing my mind right now is at least it's not having to move overseas. That was a nightmare. Anytime that I have to move, I always think about the time I was kind of homeless. I guess when I'm feeling blessed and excited for a new place, I tend to go back and think about the times that I wasn't so blessed. Now, how did I even end up kind of homeless, and what do I mean by kind of homeless? Because I never ended up having to live in the streets or having to go to a homeless shelter or anything like that. The worst it got was having to sleep in my car. I'd want to say for a good year, I didn't have a permanent address. The first year that I was homeless, I was staying with relatives, but it was very temporary. And I'm so thankful for those relatives who were able to help me during such a weird time in my life. It basically all began because I was sick and tired of living in an extremely strict household. I was fed up with the rules, and I wanted to know what life was like out there. I wanted to know what it was like to drink and party and all the stuff that I thought were fun. I was 19 years old, almost 20. This was my second, maybe third semester of community college when I decided to leave my parents' house and live on my own. A few things I want to point out was that was the same time that I had gotten my very first car. It was a 1993 Honda Prelude, I believe. And that car was such a mess, but I was so happy because I could go anywhere I wanted, whenever I wanted. It got me places. That was the time I had gotten into my very first relationship, my very first boyfriend. And also, that was the time I got my first job. I was a bagger for a grocery store called Stater Brothers. So I finally had the money to say, screw you parents, I'm gonna go out there and live life the way I wanted to. So that's what happened. And things did not go the way I wanted them to, of course. Pros and cons of living on my own. I'll start off with the cons because we want to, of course, end on a positive note. So the cons were, I started drinking and I became borderline alcoholic. I truly believe I was an alcoholic because eventually, it wasn't right away, but towards the second year of me being homeless, I started showing up to work drunk. When you get to that point where you're drunk on the job, there is a problem and you need to fix it quick. The promotion that I was looking at was taken away like this. My supervisors didn't necessarily know that I was showing up to work drunk, but they saw a huge dip in my performance at work, so obviously, yeah. Why did I start drinking so much? Like literally everyone I knew when I was going to these house parties and whatnot had been drinking since they were in high school. How come I haven't been having all this fun? I was trying to make up for those years that I didn't get the opportunity to be drunk with friends and all that stupid stuff. I'd say that was the biggest con, was falling into alcoholism. It affected my job, it affected school. By the time I started college, I was bringing my A game. I was doing very good my first year. Alcohol made me lose focus. It made me really sad to see me failing my classes. But that was also because I was working full-time as a bagger, and I had no other choice. I had to have a full-time job in order to survive. What was survival like? It was living paycheck to paycheck. Even though the relatives who let me stay at their places, thank you so much. I appreciate you. They didn't charge me for rent. I was spending money on unnecessary things, but also gas was really expensive. If you're from Southern California, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I recall one time I was waiting for a paycheck. It was a Thursday and I would get paid every Friday. And I only had $7. I literally have no gas in my car to get to work. I put $5 worth of gas in my Honda Prelude, and the other $2 I spent on, I believe there were 25-cent burritos. You know, those bean and cheese burritos in the freezer section. I only got paid minimum wage, and there's only so much you can do on minimum wage. So I was failing in school, I was failing at my job, I was failing to be financially responsible, whatever that was. So there I was with quite a bit of credit card debt, the drinking and partying, and it was such a mess. So those were all the cons, and honestly, I still wouldn't change a thing. The cons were necessary for me to experience in order to learn from my mistakes. Now, the pros of being kind of homeless. I recall at least 3/4 out of those 2 years that I was kind of homeless, I recall being happy. I was happy. I did not fall into depression. And with my history of depression, towards the end of those 2 years, my car started breaking down on me. I had to get rid of it before it completely broke down. I sold it for $900 at a Vons parking lot to some random guy who messaged me on Craigslist. I was with my ex-boyfriend at the time, and I did not think things through. I sold the car, watched the guy leave with it, prayed that it wouldn't break down as he left the parking lot. And yeah, me and my ex at the time were just looked at each other like, oh, what now? Like, literally, what are we doing? Like, where do we go? I don't have a car all of a sudden. It was crazy. I walked to the ATM. I put $500 in my checking account, and the other $400, I thought, well, let's spend it, because why not? We bought scooters, and that was gonna be the main form of transportation from that point on, and it was a blast. I'll tell you this, I had so much fun using that scooter to get me to places. I was still taking classes here and there. I always had a backpack. I always had my purse, which I hung on one handle. If I'd go to the store and buy stuff, I put the grocery bag on the other handle, and there I went, scootering away to the nearest bus stop or the nearest Sprinter station. And I got around like that. Oh, I don't know if I already talked about this, but before I got rid of my car, there was a week when I was having to sleep in my car. I had run out of places to stay, run out of relatives that could help me, friends that could help me. I was really, my life was just falling to pieces, and I was considering asking my parents if I could move back. But before that could happen, before they were able to give me an answer, I spent a week sleeping in my car. This was winter time. I had a $5 blanket that I got from Walmart. That was the only thing that covered me, and it was freaking cold. I felt one of those nights that I was gonna freeze to death. I was still happy though. I was not alone. I had friends that I had made a lot of friends actually because of college and the job I had, which is so important for a person like me. I tend to be a bit of an introvert, although I wouldn't say I'm entirely an introvert, if that makes any sense. I'm still comfortable in any social setting, talking to people, making friends and all of that, but I do need time alone as well. So it's like, I think that's called a social introvert. I had what I thought was a pretty decent social life. I wasn't starving. I got in a lot of exercise on that scooter. When I did decide to ask my parents to return home, thankfully they agreed. It was a bit, they were a little iffy because, I mean, they knew what I was up to. They had an idea. They might have not known the details, but they had an idea of what I had been up to for the past 2 years. Going back home, I realized just how grateful I was for my parents and everything they did for me. Those were dark times that I didn't necessarily feel like I was in the dark. Everything that I have gone through has led me up to this point. I feel so lucky to have ended up with such a wonderful husband. So where to next? We don't know when my husband will get orders next, but what we do know is that we have less than 2 weeks now to find a new apartment. We're staying in the same area, so that's pretty cool. I want to wrap this video up by reminding everyone to keep a smile on your face. If life starts to get crazy and things start looking like they're falling apart or just all over the place, don't forget that these are just challenges that we can always get through. The outcome will always be a lot better than what you think it'll be. So keep on smiling, give out those positive vibes if you have them, and hopefully I will be seeing you guys next week with another video. Bye!